Are you ready to set off with us to Spain? But beware, our trip doesn't include picturesque beaches and local specialties, but an archaeological sightseeing tour that will change your view of the Iberian Peninsula forever. From spectacular coffin finds to ancient cave paintings to the truth about Bronze Age role models, you won't believe the breathtaking evidence of time that really lies dormant in Spain. A little warning up front, if you're squeamish, you should probably think twice about whether you really want to see the third discovery. We absolutely did not expect this spectacular discovery. This quote from Professor Rafael González Fernández from the University of Murcia already shows the extraordinary significance of the ancient testimony that was unearthed a few months ago in Los Villarrocas in the south of Spain. While Fernández and his team were searching for archaeological treasures in the heat and dust of the excavation site, the soil revealed an incredible discovery that left everyone present open-mouthed. A 1,500-year-old Visigothic coffin that was not only in exceptionally good condition, but also contained human remains. At the same time, the find also provides a deep insight into the history of the region in question. After Los Villarrocas had long been controlled by the Romans, the Visigoths and other Germanic tribes began to invade the Roman territories in the 5th century. Consequently, the new rulers adapted the existing buildings to their own needs. For while Los Villarrocas was still used by the Romans as an agricultural settlement in the 1st century AD, the coffin mentioned above was found in a Roman villa whose courtyard had been converted into an acropolis by the Visigoths. However, the experts had to look twice before they realized what irreplaceable contemporary evidence was still slumbering there. At first, the researchers thought they had discovered a pilaster, a special wall pillar, or a rectangular column. Soon afterwards, however, the supposed column turned out to be an almost 2-meter-long sarcophagus decorated with impressive geometric patterns and interlocking ivy leaves. The experts also identified a so-called Chi symbol on it in detail. This symbol, also known as the Christ monogram, is made up of the first 2 letters of the Greek word for Christ. It therefore stands for Jesus, or more precisely, for his resurrection. According to tradition, the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great is said to have adopted the Chi symbol as a military standard after it appeared to him in a vision. Ultimately, it became part of the official imperial emblem, although the symbol has also been discovered on significantly older, pre-Christian artifacts. However, when it comes to the place of discovery, Los Villarrocas was built along a trade route between Carthage and Complutum. In its heyday, the ancient settlement was an important olive oil producer, and yet the archaeologists not only found an ancient olive mill here, but also some mosaics and a cistern. Between the 5th and 7th century, the Visigoths also focused their attention on the religious transformation of the site. In addition to the aforementioned necropolis, they also transformed the villa's ocus, an imposing room where the lord of the house once received his distinguished guests, into a Christian basilica. The breathtaking cave paintings of Altamira. Sometimes it takes a runaway dog and a 5-year-old girl to uncover a long-forgotten testimony. In 1868, a hunter's 4-legged friend escaped and stumbled across the entrance to a completely unknown cave during his subsequent search. The hunter immediately reported the discovery to the Lord of Santillana, the natural scientist Marcelino Sanz di Saltulo. He then sent his little daughter into the newly discovered cave world. After all, the little girl was the only one who could enter it upright. Shortly afterwards, the young archaeologist reported to her father that cattle could be seen on the cave ceiling. What followed was a systematic exploration of the cave and the supposed realization that the paintings were nothing more than modern smearings. But today, we are smarter. The Altamira cave contains around 930 Paleolithic paintings depicting deer, bison, horses, and wild boar. The site can also officially call itself a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But if you are hoping to see these works of art from days long gone with your own eyes, we're sorry to disappoint you. The cave has not been open to visitors since 1979. The warm air breathed in by tourists had caused serious damage to the paintings. Fortunately, you don't have to miss out on the breathtaking site completely. The entrance area of the cave, which covers around 1,500 square meters, has been faithfully recreated and can be admired in the Altamira Visitor Center without any risk of mold growth. cannibalism 800,000 years ago. The Sierra de Atapuerca, a small mountain range in the northern Spanish province of Burgos, hides an ancient secret that provides a deep insight into our own evolutionary history and that of our extinct relatives. In the 1990s, hundreds of fossil bones were discovered in several caves here, which are attributed to the genre Homo heidelbergensis, Homo sapiens, and Neanderthal man. But that's not all. The age of some fossils is estimated to be as much as 800,000 years. And in view of this, the Spanish excavation leaders decided to identify the new species Homo antecestor, which is also said to have been the direct ancestor of Neanderthals. The extent to which the distinction between the Spanish finds and similarly old discoveries in Africa and other European countries is correct is, however, disputed. What is undisputed, however, is that hundreds of thousands of years ago, something took place in the Sierra de Atapuerca, which, from today's perspective, seems simply appalling. The prehistoric inhabitants on the site ate each other. The remains of an 800,000-year-old Homo antecestor individual, known as the Boy of Grandolina, bears witness to this and should still hold a big surprise for the researchers. Because lo and behold, a modern investigation has revealed that the child was in fact a girl. The new study, which was published in the Journal of Anthropological Sciences, was based on modern techniques for analyzing dental tissue. At the end of the investigation, it was found that the girl from Grandolina was between 9 and 11 years old at the time of her death, and that she had been killed and eaten. The bottom line is that this was by no means an isolated case. To date, 22 fossils have been found in the region that show clear signs of cannibalism. In addition to cuts and fractures, these also include bite marks. But what was the background to this cruel practice? Well, this question has not been conclusively answered. One attempt at an explanation is based on a purely practical approach. Their own kind may simply have been easier to catch and more nutritious than other animals. According to this, some bones were apparently broken open in order to get to the nutrient-rich bone marrow. On the other hand, it is assumed that cannibalism was practiced as part of a ritual. The true gender roles of the Bronze Age. A team of archaeologists in southwest Spain has made a discovery that could fundamentally change our understanding of ancient gender roles in Iberian society. A still was recovered from the 3,000-year-old burial site of La Capellananes de Leon that appears to depict an important person. The figure has detailed facial features, feet and hands, wears a headdress and a necklace, and has 2 swords and male genitalia. What is initially just an exciting depiction from the past for us is a real problem for the experts. The iconography is in stark contrast to most comparable finds. Headdresses and necklaces are generally associated with female characteristics, while weapons such as swords normally indicate a male warrior. According to the researchers, the so-called Stela 3 of Carbonal de Leon changes everything. It combines the different characteristics and shows that the social roles could have been much more fluid than previously assumed. As the still contains unmistakably male genitalia, it also shows that social roles were not limited to a specific gender, but could be associated with different genders. The extraterrestrial treasure. The Tesoro di Villena is nothing less than one of the largest Bronze Age gold deposits ever found. Discovered in 1963 near the town of Villena in the province of Alicante, the find is made up of 59 objects. These include 28 bracelets, 11 bowls, and 3 bottles. And in total, the ancient treasures weigh around 10 kilograms. And while these prime examples of prehistoric blacksmithing are made of silver and amber as well as gold, we now know that the material of 2 of the artifacts is literally not of this world. In detail, these are a small hollow hemisphere covered with a sheet of gold, presumably a sword pommel, and an open bracelet. A new analysis revealed that the objects were made in the late Bronze Age between 1400 and 1200 BC, and that their creators used meteorite iron. However, this iron is well over 3,000 years old. The projectile from outer space probably hit the Earth around 1 million years ago. Furthermore, the 2 objects are the first and oldest iron objects of meteoric origin to be found on the Iberian Peninsula. But who did the extraterrestrial treasures actually belong to? Well, it can be assumed that the Tesoro di Villena was not owned by a single powerful person. After all, there were no kingdoms in Spain at the time. Instead, the sparkling depository probably served as the hidden treasure of an entire community. Who would have thought that such incredible things were still hidden in this city? Archaeologists in Pompei broke into a forbidden room and froze at the sight of what was inside. After the initial shock, the scientists investigated their sensational find, and even more gruesome details came to light. Not only was the volcanic eruption a devastating event in Pompei, but life in this city seems to have been much harsher and crueler than we previously imagined. For almost 2,000 years, Pompei lay buried under a thick layer of mud and centuries-old ash. In 1763, the once magnificent city at the foot of Mount Vesuvius was rediscovered by chance. Since then, researchers have uncovered incredible things there, and the shocking finds are never-ending. Almost all of the city's life has been preserved forever by the sudden heat death of the people. Nowhere else can archaeologists see such authentic scenes, rooms, people, and the true living conditions of the people shortly after the beginning of the new era. In a recently developed area of the city, researchers found a tiny entrance behind a wall to a side room that was completely buried. The archaeologists successfully broke down parts of the wall and gained access to the room. The room was so hidden in the building that it seemed like a secret. What was stored there? What was this chamber good for that it was hidden like this? The excitement grew immeasurably, and then the researchers found themselves in a tiny chamber and were gripped by what they saw there. The Forbidden Room contained 3 wooden beds and objects such as jugs, jars, and a chamber pot. It looks as if it had been recently abandoned, and yet the researchers were aware that almost all the people who lived and worked in the house had died in tragic circumstances almost 2,000 years ago. The accommodation apparently served as a sleeping and living chamber for slaves, which adds to the drama of the find. 2 large cots and a small one probably tell the story of a slave couple who lived here with a child. Extremely cramped conditions, the harshest equipment, and children born as slaves had practically no chance of a normal life. Slaves were considered the property of their masters, and even children had to work as soon as they could. According to Roman law, slaves were not other human beings, but barbarians or savages with whom you could do whatever you wanted. Most of Rome's slaves came from the occupied territories, from other countries in Europe, the Balkans, Asia Minor, North Africa, and even Germania. The slaves were brought to Rome and other metropolises of the empire as spoils of war and sold there. The room was once part of the Villa Giuliana, a rich estate with land and horses. A box of horse equipment found in the cramped, stuffy room suggested that the slave family was responsible for the welfare of the carriage and riding horses. The child could have been big enough to carry buckets of water and water the animals. Slaves worked from sunrise to sunset and even longer in the darker months of the year. At the end of their work, they were left with some bread and water and a little privacy in this dreary 16 square meter room. Despite the lack of significant treasures, this moving find is considered by some archaeologists to be one of the most exciting in all of Pompeii due to its authenticity and drama. In addition to the pomp of the society that had conquered half of Europe, it also shows its dark side and the hard fate of defenseless people. Villa Giuliana is not located in Pompeii itself, but just outside. Around 79 AD, several manorial estates were scattered around the city center. Conspicuously wealthy people lived in Pompeii and the surrounding area. The whole place seems to have once been a metropolis of the rich and beautiful, as well as the merrymaking of ancient Rome. In 79 AD, everyone was affected: slaves and their masters, inhabitants, visitors, and travelers. For centuries, Mount Vesuvius was only 10 kilometers away from Pompeii. As the city continued to grow, no one had any idea that one of Europe's most dangerous volcanoes was preparing its next eruption on their doorstep. The catastrophe was imminent. How could it be that nobody in Pompeii suspected anything when Vesuvius began to spew out clouds of smoke with conspicuous frequency? People may have seen the phenomenon, but were unable to distinguish it from other signs of life from the volcano. Studies have shown that Vesuvius erupts violently over the region about every 2,000 years. It had been so long since the last devastating eruption in 79 AD that nobody had any idea of the volcano's immense power. Life pulsated in the bustling city. The streets were filled with the buzzing voices of merchants hawking their wares and the laughter of children playing between the stalls. The air was filled with the smell of freshly baked bread from the numerous bakeries and the salty scent of the nearby sea. People enjoyed the amenities of life, from the public baths to the theaters where dramas and comedies were performed. Social life flourished in the taverns, and the townspeople met in the squares to exchange news and conduct business. The slaves carried the purchases of the fine ladies, did the dirty work for their masters, or looked after the estates of the upper classes when they were out for their daily amusements. Excavations have revealed magnificent villas, lively markets, and impressive public baths. Pompeii was a center of trade, culture, and pleasure. The erotic frescoes and wall paintings of Pompeii were world famous. Some superstitious people said that Pompeii was destroyed by God as a den of inequity due to the liberal depiction of physical love and the omnipresent phallic symbols. But today we know that this is complete nonsense. Dealing with eroticism and nudity in ancient Rome was simply very different from ours. The phallus was a symbol of luck that helped ward off evil spirits and stood for wealth and good business. The inhabitants of Pompeii were normal people of the time, a colorful mixture of rich merchants, craftsmen, slaves, and ordinary citizens. On the day of the first eruption, they went about their daily business as usual, carefree and completely unaware of what was brewing above them. The end came early in the morning. Vesuvius probably showed signs of minor earthquakes long before the first eruption. But earthquakes are nothing unusual in this region of Italy, and nobody put one and one together. On the morning of August 24, 79 AD, a dull rumbling could be heard. The earth shook again, and a dark, threatening cloud rose above Mount Vesuvius. A faint smell of sulfur spread, which was initially perceived by the inhabitants as unusual, but not immediately threatening. It was only when the sky darkened and the sun was obscured by the ash cloud that the fear grew. The earth shook more strongly, and the rumbling of the volcano became a deafening thunder. Now the people of Pompeii panicked. Some clever people fled the city, but the rich and merchants in particular stayed. They did not want to leave their possessions behind. Today, we can see from the remains of the many people that those who remained mostly sought shelter in their homes. They hoped that the thick stone walls would keep out what came next. Vesuvius erupted with a huge bang, and a thunderclap echoed through the city. Anyone still on the street was swept away by the massive shockwave. Roofs of houses were swept away, and the enormous heat penetrated through every slit and into every house. Followed by swaths of poisonous gases, the blast wave and the heat probably killed most people. Those who survived could barely breathe. Then the ash rain began. At first, it was just fine particles falling from the sky like a gray snow. But soon they became denser, heavier, accompanied by burning stones that fell from the sky and set buildings on fire. The ash covered everything, penetrating every crack, covering the streets, houses, and people. The once vibrant and colorful city turned into a gray, dead landscape, and remained so until its rediscovery in the 18th century. Is Pompeii repeating itself? In view of this drama and the incredible circumstances under which so many people died, the question naturally arises as to whether something like this could happen again today. Perhaps you are now saying, how could people have been so unsuspecting? But let's take a look at Mount Vesuvius. Today, the volcano rises near the metropolitan region of Naples. Millions of people live there. Although no one lives as close to Vesuvius as the inhabitants of Naples did back then, we can clearly see here that people's guilelessness is being repeated. As the region became more densely populated, nobody knew anything about the tragedy that had occurred in 79 AD. Vesuvius erupts massively every 2,000 years, and it is now 2024. 2,000 years is only a guide. It can happen sooner or later. When the tragedy of Pompeii became known in the 18th century, it hardly stopped anyone from living here. People were once again unaware of the danger. But there is another and far more dangerous volcano than Vesuvius lurking in this region of Italy. The Pligrian Fields are a supervolcano in the north of Naples. The region is therefore surrounded by two deadly volcanoes. Unlike Mount Vesuvius, the Phlegraean Fields are an underground supervolcano and not a cone volcano. Where they extend, there is only a little heat, sulfur, and here and there some hot material bubbling upwards. Both volcanoes are active. If Vesuvius were to erupt again, the pressure wave and heat would also be devastating for hundreds of thousands of people in the surrounding area. The Phlegraean volcanoes are even more dangerous because if they erupt, one of the largest magma chambers on Earth will suddenly empty. Supervolcanoes erupt with incredible force, bursting open the entire Earth and releasing huge quantities of toxic gases and ash. Vesuvius is currently calm, but the Phlegraean Fields are bubbling treacherously. People in the south of Italy are currently getting nervous. Although experts are reassuring and say that the explosion of the huge magma chamber is not imminent, hardly any devastating volcanic eruption in the last 100 or 200 years has really announced itself in such a way that experts could have seen it coming. A cautionary example occurred in 1902 when Mount Pelée in Martinique completely destroyed the town of Saint-Pierre, killing over 30,000 people. Similar to Pompei, the inhabitants of Saint-Pierre were surprised by the sudden and powerful force of nature. In 1985, the Nevado del Ruiz erupted in Colombia, although there were signs of geological activity prior to the eruption. As in Pompei, nobody took the smaller earthquakes and steam eruptions seriously, and this mistake cost 23,000 people their lives. Gockley Teepe. Gockley Teepe is an ancient archaeological site located in the southeastern Anatolia region of modern-day Turkey. Experts believe it is one of the oldest known temple complexes in the world, with some of the structures dating back to around 11,000 years ago. Gockley Teepe was discovered in the 1960s by a local shepherd, but it was not until the 1990s that excavations of the site began in earnest. The site is thought to have been used for various purposes, including as a place of worship, a center for social and economic exchange, and possibly even a burial place. The structures at Gockley Teepe consist of circular and rectangular enclosures, each containing some T-shaped pillars decorated with intricate carvings of animals, people, and other symbols. These pillars are thought to have served a variety of functions. One of its functions includes supporting the roofs of the enclosures and possibly serving a ceremonial or symbolic purpose. The Oracle at Delphi. The Oracle at Delphi was a famous oracle found in Delphi, an ancient Greek city. The site was considered to be the center of the ancient world. The Oracle at Delphi was where people could seek guidance and answers to essential questions from the gods, and also, experts believe, people from all over the ancient world. The origins of the Oracle at Delphi are shrouded in mystery, and it needs to be clarified precisely when it was first established. However, it is thought to have been in use for many centuries. The site was first mentioned in the 8th century BCE. The Oracle at Delphi is located in the Temple of Apollo at Delphi. It was built on the slopes of Mount Parnassus. The Oracle at Delphi was said to be a priestess who was believed to be able to communicate with the gods and answer the questions of those who consulted her. The Oracle at Delphi was also believed to be able to predict the future and offer guidance to those who sought her counsel. The Oracle at Delphi was an essential part of ancient Greek culture and played a significant role in the day-to-day lives of the people of the time. It has continued to be an essential site for many centuries, and its influence can still be felt today. The discovery of the Terracotta Army. The Terracotta Army is a pack of hundreds of life-size terracotta figures discovered in the 1970s in the Lingtong district of Xi'an, China. The figures, which depict soldiers, horses, and other figures, were created to accompany the first emperor of China. Qin Shi Huang ruled from 221 to 210 BCE. A group of farmers digging a well on their land discovered the army in the 1970s. As they dug deeper, they came across some terracotta figures, which they initially thought were ordinary pots. However, upon further examination, they realized that the figures were much more significant and reported their discoveries to the authorities. Since their discovery, the Terracotta Army has become one of the world's most famous and important archaeological finds. The figures are considered to be an incredible feat of artistry and craftsmanship. They provide valuable insights into the lives and beliefs of the ancient Chinese people. The site is now a popular tourist site. Marsala Shipwreck discovered near Sicily. The Marsala shipwreck is an ancient Roman shipwreck that was discovered in the 1990s. It was found near the town of Marsala on the western coast of Sicily. It dates back to the 2nd or 3rd century CE and is one of the most complete Roman shipwrecks ever found. The Marsala shipwreck was discovered by a team of divers who were searching for sunken ancient ships in the waters near Sicily. The ship was found about 40 feet deep in the ocean. Surprisingly, it was in an exceptionally well-preserved condition. The ship was carrying a cargo of wine and oil when it sank. The divers who discovered it found some well-preserved amphorae, large two-handled pots, containing these goods. The ship itself was also in good condition. This provided excellent insights into their construction and design of ancient Roman ships. Discovery of 1800-year-old Gladiator arena in Turkey. The ancient city of Ephesus, found in western Turkey, has been known to historians and archaeologists for centuries. The Great Theater of Ephesus, an 1800-year-old gladiator arena, has been a well-known site within the city for a long time. The Great Theater of Ephesus was first mentioned by ancient writers. However, it was in the 19th century that the theater was fully excavated, and its actual size and significance were revealed. Excavations of the Great Theater of Ephesus began in the late 19th century and have continued to the present day. These excavations have helped uncover the theater's full extent and features, such as its seating arena, stage, and backstage areas. The Great Theater of Ephesus is now a popular tourist destination. It is also a testament to the skill and ingenuity of ancient Roman builders. It is an important site for understanding the history of gladiator fights in the ancient world. It also reveals the role that entertainment played in ancient Roman culture. Discovery of Pompei. Pompei is an old Roman city found in the Campania region in modern-day Italy. It was founded in the 7th or 6th century BCE and was a thriving and prosperous city during the Roman Republic and Roman Empire. Pompei is best known for its tragic end, when it was destroyed and buried under ash and pumice in 79 CE by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. The explosion killed many of the city's inhabitants and preserved the town and its buildings, art, and artifacts in a state of arrested decay. Pompei was rediscovered in the 16th century CE. However, extensive excavations of the site began in the 18th and 19th centuries. These excavations have revealed a wealth of information about life in ancient Rome. Pompei is now one of the most famous and well-studied ancient Roman cities. It is a popular tourist destination and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Discovery of Oldi Gorge. Oldi Gorge is an important paleoanthropological site in the eastern Serengeti Plains in Tanzania. It is famous for its many hominid fossils, including those of early human ancestors such as Homo habilis and Homo erectus. German archaeologist and paleontologist Hans Reck first discovered the gorge in the early 20th century. Reck was working in the area as part of a German expedition, and he came across many stone tools and fossilized bones while exploring the gorge. Further excavations of the site were carried out in the 1950s and 1960s by the anthropologists Louise and Mary Leakey. The pair made many significant discoveries at Oldi Gorge, including the remains of early human ancestors and many essential stone tools. Oldi Gorge is one of the world's most important paleoanthropological sites today. The site plays a crucial role in our understanding of human evolution. It is a popular destination for researchers and tourists and is protected as a national park. The discovery of the Cave of Altamira. The Cave of Altamira is a famous cave near Santillana del Mar in the Cantabria region of northern Spain. The cave is renowned for the many paintings and engravings of animals and other images found on its walls and ceiling. Experts believe these paintings and engravings are between 12,000 and 35,000 years old. They are also regarded as some of the finest examples of prehistoric art worldwide. The cave at Altamira was discovered in the late 19th century CE by a local boy named Marcelino Sanz di Sautolo. Sautolo was exploring the cave with his father when he came across the paintings and engravings, and he immediately recognized their significance. Sautolo's discovery in the Altamira cave caused a scientific community sensation. The site became a focus of study for archaeologists and researchers. It is currently a UNESCO World Heritage Destination and a popular tourist destination. The cave's paintings and engravings continue to be studied and are an essential source of information about the lives and culture of the people who created them. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls are a compilation of ancient Jewish texts found in the 1940s in the Dead Sea in Israel. The wordings are written in Hebrew, with some parts in Aramaic. Archaeologists believe they date back to the 1st century CE. A Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad ed-Deeb found the scrolls in the 1940s. Ed DeBeebe was searching for a lost goat when he stumbled upon a cave that contained many clay jars. Inside the jars, he found some ancient scrolls, which he took to a local antique dealer. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls resulted in a sensation in the scientific community, and the texts have been the subject of much research and study. They are among the most important finds in the field of archaeology. The Dead Sea Scrolls are now housed in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem and are a popular tourist destination. Before we proceed, remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel. To be notified whenever we post new videos, turn on notifications for this channel. Okay, on to the next one. The discovery of the San Jose Spanish treasure galleon. The San Jose Spanish treasure galleon was a ship that sank in the Caribbean Sea in 1708. It was discovered in 2015 by a team of marine archaeologists working off the coast of Colombia. The San Jose was a Spanish galleon, part of a fleet of ships transporting gold, silver, and other treasures from South America back to Spain. The British Navy sank the ship during a battle in the Spanish Succession War. San Jose's discovery was announced in 2015. Experts regard it as a significant underwater archaeological find in recent history. The ship was found to be well preserved, and it contained a vast treasure of gold, silver, and other valuables. The discovery of the ancient city of Tanis. The ancient city of Tanis is located in the eastern Nile Delta region of Egypt. It is an ancient city that dates back to the first intermediate period of ancient Egypt, 2181 to 2055 BCE. It was a major cultural and political center in the region for many centuries. Tanis was initially built on the banks of the Nile, but over time, the course of the river changed, and the city was gradually buried under the sand. The French archaeologists rediscovered the city in the 19th century CE. During the excavations of Tanis, many essential artifacts and structures were discovered, including tombs, temples, and other buildings. These finds have provided valuable insights into the history and culture of ancient Egypt, and Tanis is now a popular tourist destination. The discovery of the Easter Island of Moai. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, is located in the southeastern Pacific Ocean, about 2,300 miles, 3,700 kilometers off the coast of Chile. The island is known for its ancient stone statues called moai. The figures were created by the Rapa Nui people who inhabited the island from around 1200 CE before the arrival of European explorers in the 18th century. The moai are giant stone statues carved from volcanic rock and depict human figures with elongated heads and broad noses. The sculptures range in size from small figurines to towering figures that stand over 30 feet, 9 meters tall. European explorers discovered the moai of Easter Island in the 18th century. Experts believe the statues were created and erected by the Rapa Nui people many centuries earlier. The sculptures have become a symbol of Easter Island and are a popular tourist attraction. Easter Island is now in the territory of Chile, and the island and its moai are protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The island houses a small population descended from the Rapa Nui, who continue practicing their traditional cultural traditions. The discovery of the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone is an ancient stone slab discovered in 1799 CE by Napoleon Bonaparte's army's soldiers in the Egyptian town of Rosetta, now known as Rashid. The stone is made of black granodite and is inscribed with a decree issued by the Egyptian pharaoh Ptolemy V in 196 BCE. The decree is written in 3 scripts: hieroglyphic, demotic, and Greek. This made the Rosetta Stone an essential key to understanding the hieroglyphic script, which had been lost to the modern world for over 1,000 years. The stone was discovered during the Napoleonic Wars and taken to France as part of the spoils of war. It was later returned to Britain in 1802. It is currently housed in the British Museum in London. The discovery of Qin Shi Huang's tomb. Qin Shi Huang was China's first emperor. His tomb was discovered in 1974 by a group of Chinese farmers in the Lingtong district of Zhuan, Shaanxi Province, China. The tomb is located near the mausoleum of the first Qin emperor. It contains the remains of the emperor and a terracotta army of over 8,000 life-size soldiers, chariots, and horses created to protect the emperor in the afterlife. Qin Shi Huang founded the Qin dynasty, and it is credited with unifying China under a single rule for the first time in its history. He was also responsible for the construction of the Great Wall of China. His tomb is considered one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in China and has shed light on the funerary practices and beliefs of the time. The tomb complex is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is open to the public for tours. 6,000 years of life discovered in Cambridgeshire. The A14 roadway in Cambridgeshire, England is undergoing a significant upgrade and expansion project. As part of this project, archaeologists have excavated a medieval hamlet called Houghton, located in the construction zone. The landscape in and around Houghton, a long forgotten village, is marked by the scattered post holes and pits left behind by waves of people who have lived there over the past 6,000 years. The presence of these physical remains is indicative of the enduring impact that each successive group of people has had on the land. This excavation is part of the largest road archaeological project ever undertaken in England. It has involved excavating more than 17 miles of test trenches in a targeted area of 1.4 square miles, slightly larger than New York Central Park. The excavation has revealed a wealth of information about the history of Cambridgeshire countryside, including evidence of settlements and other human activity spanning nearly the entirety of English history.
Sauna from the Bronze Age. In Orkney, archaeologists have found the well-preserved and almost complete remains of a rare building that likely dates back to the Bronze Age. The researchers believe that it's a kind of sauna. It must have been built in the period around 4000 to 1000 BC. It was likely a place for ritual ceremonies. It's also conceivable that it was a place for giving birth to children or burying corpses. The building was well hidden and had restricted access. These are also signs that it was a very special building intended for a select group of people. A large water tank was likely used to produce boiling water and steam. Although researchers are not sure if the water tank was actually used for this purpose, the elaborate architecture and sophisticated structure indicate that the tank could not have been used only for cooking. Researchers are still trying to find out whether it was a sauna in the modern sense or whether festivals and rituals were also held in this building. Ancient board game. In a 2,300-year-old tomb in China, archaeologists have found parts of a board game. It's called Bo, and no one knows the rules of this ancient game, which was last played about 1,500 years ago. The researchers found dice made from an animal tooth with 14 faces, 21 rectangular game pieces with numbers painted on them, and a broken token from a board game. Other finds brought to light a cave full of game pieces, as well as an old tablet. Reconstructions show that the token was decorated with 2 eyes. The eyes were surrounded by a cloud and thunder patterns. On the die were the numbers 1 to 6. These appeared twice each on 12 faces in the form of an ancient Chinese script, known as seal script. 2 faces had no numbers. Although the rules of the game are virtually unknown, a 2,200-year-old poem has given researchers some clues. The poem says, paraphrasing, "Then with bamboo cubes and pieces of ivory the game of Lubo is begun. Sides are taken. They advance together. They threaten each other." Trapped in amber. Lena Struer, professor of botany, has discovered 2 flowers that were enclosed in amber for at least 15 million years. Both flowers belonged to the genus Strychnos, but not to any of the 200 species of this genus known so far. Struer therefore gave the flowers the name Strychnos electri and coined the species name because of the amber in which they were found. Normally, researchers only ever find fragments of plant fossils in amber, such as a petal or a stamen. The finding of an intact plant is rather rare. The researcher Poyner had discovered the amber in 1986 in a mine in the Dominican Republic. He thought that the flowers in the amber looked as if they had just fallen from a tree. To examine the amber more closely, he sent it to Lena Struer, an expert on the genus Strychnos. After long research, she was finally able to confirm that it was a previously unknown species of the genus Strychnos. This was an important discovery for understanding the evolution of plants in the Caribbean and the tropics in the New World. Vindolanda plates. Archaeologists have discovered the Vindolanda Tablets in the former Roman military camp Fort Vindolanda from 1973. This camp was once used to secure and monitor the hinterland of Hadrian's Wall in Britain. The Vindolanda Tablets are made of wood and, at the time of their discovery, were Britain's oldest handwritten documents ever found. They were mostly a standardized size of about 20 by 9 centimeters, were mostly made of alder wood, and were inscribed in ink. The tablets recorded in Latin things like military matters, but also personal notes between soldiers and their families or soldiers and slaves. For example, tablets were found on which grain deliveries were confirmed or shoe purchases were settled. On other tablets, fighting techniques were noted. By 2010, 752 of these tablets had been translated. Vindolanda Tablets were also found in the period after that. Tomb of the Silver Pharaoh. This find is the royal tomb of Pharaoh Susenus I. The French archaeologist Pierre Montet discovered it rather accidentally in northern Egypt in 1939. The find was a real surprise because archaeologists would not have suspected such a royal burial chamber with jewels and treasures in this area of Egypt. The most important discovery in the royal tomb was the sarcophagus, which had been crafted from silver with amazing detail and outstanding craftsmanship. No silver sarcophagus had ever been discovered before, and the find is accordingly astonishing and amazing. Geoglyphs in Kazakhstan. The geoglyphs in northern Kazakhstan are 50 geoglyphs of different shapes and sizes. One massive geoglyph in the shape of a swastika stands out. This cross was a well-known shape long before National Socialism. These geoglyphs were discovered with the help of Google Earth. Besides the swastika, there are rings, crosses or squares, for example. Some are longer than an aircraft carrier. From the ground, the geoglyphs are difficult to see, but from the air, they are very easy to see. In addition, archaeologists found remains of buildings and fireplaces at the geoglyphs. This could indicate the rituals were held there. Silver coin from the 12th century. The very rare coin depicting King Stephen was found in 2018 by Graham Rushton, a metal detectorist on the border of Lincolnshire and South Yorkshire. At first, he didn't know what rare find he had in his hands. It was only experts at a museum who were able to tell him what rarity he was holding. They estimated that there are only 25 known examples of this coin. King Stephen was the grandson of William I. As King Edward, he became King of England in 1135, succeeding his uncle King Henry. The latter, however, had appointed his only daughter Matilda as heir. Stephen's accession to the throne thus plunged England into a 19-year civil war. The coin found shows Stephen with his wife. It was found just below the surface of a ploughed field. This was also the spot where Stephen was defeated by the Earl of Gloucester in 1141. The latter was a half-brother of Henry's daughter Matilda. He was subsequently imprisoned, but was later released. To end the civil war, he agreed in 1153 to appoint Matilda's son Henry as his heir. 2,000-year-old banana farm. Researchers have found artifacts in Ouagadougou on Mabayug Island that indicate bananas were grown here. The island is located in the Torres Strait between the northernmost tip of Australia and Papua New Guinea. These finds indicate the indigenous people were already cultivating bananas here more than 2,000 years ago, and they were not hunter-gatherers, as was long assumed. They found traces of fruits, charcoal, and stone tools. The examination of thousands of microfossils revealed granules of banana starch. Since bananas were not native to the Torres Strait, the researchers assume that the fruits arrived there through trade with inhabitants of Papua New Guinea. In Papua New Guinea, the cultivation of bananas had been known for thousands of years at that time. Ancient Chinese liquor. A team of researchers in China has found a bronze cauldron containing a liquor from the Qin dynasty. The liquor must be around 2,200 years old. The bronze cauldron was found with 260 other objects in tombs in the Chinese province of Shanxi. It seems to have served as a sacrificial vessel. The cauldron was sealed with plants and natural fibers. When the researchers opened it, they found about 300 milliliters of alcohol inside. The scientists had not expected this. The liquid was milky white and slightly muddy. It was subjected to chemical tests. The results showed that it was a highly concentrated amino acid substance. It also contained a small amount of proteins and fatty acids. Therefore, the liquid looked similar to a yellowish rice wine. 2,000-year-old bronze pot. Excavations in central China revealed a 2,000-year-old bronze pot. When it was found in a tomb in Henan, it contained more than 3 liters of unknown liquid. The pot had a curved neck. It resembled a swan in shape. The researchers also found a bronze helmet, a bronze basin, and swords made of jade and iron. The yellowish-brown liquid showed impurities, so it was sent to Beijing for tests. The tomb itself seems to date from the turning point between the Qin and Han dynasties. It may have been the burial place of a low-ranking official. Experts identified the swan shape as a mute swan and assumed that the craftsman who made the bronze pot must have studied these swans very well to make the pot look so realistic. 69,347 Roman and Celtic coins. The largest hoard of coins ever found in the British Isles includes 69,347 Roman and Celtic coins. The coins were buried 3 feet under a hedge and a pile of clay with a wipe of 3/4 of a ton and was discovered in Jersey, Channel Isles. Reg Mead and Richard Miles searched for the £10 million treasure for 30 years. In 2012, they finally succeeded. Under the Treasure Act of 1996, the find was declared treasure. Thus, it officially belonged to the Queen, but the finders were entitled to a reward. The least valuable coins were worth £100 each. Thus, the entire treasure had a value of several million pounds. Added to this was the jewelry contained in the treasure. These were 10 stunning archaeological finds. Explorers have found things in excavations that indicate even centuries ago, people may have been much more advanced than we think today. Which find is the most spectacular for you? Vessel from the 15th century. Workers found an ancient barge 30 years ago when they were deepening a pond in an apple orchard and their tools hit a wooden structure. The owner of the orchard acted immediately and called in a team of archaeologists. They revealed a flat-bottom barge from 1481, typically used for transporting goods on the Vistula River in the 15th and 16th centuries. The find was a sensation, not only because it was so well preserved, but also because it's one of the largest examples of these vessels, measuring 31 meters long, 7 meters wide, and 1.5 meters deep. The barge was found near Chursk Castle in a pond that was likely part of the Vistula River before it changed its course and flowed further east. In fact, it was this change in the river that caused the Dukes of Mazovia to abandon Chursk Castle and move to Warsaw. Dr. Wojciech Brzezinski of the State Archaeological Museum underlines the importance of the find. The ship was sailing on the Vistula in the time of Christopher Columbus, but it is 9 meters longer than his ships. Mysterious paintings. Rock paintings 10,000 years old depicting UFOs and aliens have been found in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, which may indicate that aliens from other planets have interacted with humans since prehistoric times. The fan-like antenna and 3 legs of a vehicle clearly show a resemblance to a UFO-like object. The former central province of India, now Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, was the site of pre-agrarian human settlement even before the Great Tectonic Plate movement. The paintings were discovered in caves hidden deep in the dense jungle near Charama in the tribal region of Bastar. A group of anthropologists have made a startling discovery of intricate prehistoric cave paintings depicting aliens and UFO-like spacecraft along a similar-looking wormhole formation in the sky. The paintings are in natural colors that have barely faded despite the many years. The oddly carved figures are seen holding weapon-like objects and lack clear facial features. In particular, the nose and mouth are missing. In a few images, they can even be seen wearing spacesuits. The newly discovered depictions date from about 10,000 years ago. Golden Lozenge of Stonehenge. Stonehenge, the prehistoric monument in Wiltshire, England, is famous all over the world, and even today, it is a place with a mysterious charm. The monument is made of huge megalithic stones, some standing, some stacked on top of each other, all many millennia old. A lesser-known discovery uncovered at the iconic site is the spectacular and curious artifact of a golden lozenge found in the tomb of a presumed chief or high priest near the circle. Could its grave goods have astronomical significance? The find is not too new, having been made in 1808 by British archaeologist William Cunnington. What Cunnington found was an extensive collection of artifacts that have been called the crown jewels of the King of Stonehenge. Could it be that a king had been buried near the circle? The find was made at a large Bronze Age burial mound just a half mile from Stonehenge, now known as Bush Barrow. but the tomb is close enough to the circle and within the large complex to suggest that its positioning cannot be a coincidence. Stone circles in the Bruniquel Cave. The French Bruniquel Cave attracts many researchers because 2 stone circles were found there that were built more than 170,000 years ago. Researchers have no doubts that these mysterious circles were made by people. The main material is parts of stalactites and stalagmites. To make the circles, about 400 parts were used, which were joined with fire. More than 170,000 years ago, Neanderthals lived in the territory of today's France, and no one but them could complete this task. The unusual circles in Bruniquel Cave are quite complex constructions and prove that Neanderthals were more intelligent than modern science assumed. Unfortunately, we still do not know the exact purpose of the stone circles. Lost submarine. The Turkish Navy has found a sunken German submarine from World War II during the production of a documentary film. The U-23 submarine was found at a depth of 40 meters and about 4 kilometers off the coast of Ava in Istanbul's Şile district. The U-23 was part of a series of 6 German submarines designed to attack Soviet ships in the Black Sea. According to the report, researchers discovered the U-20, another submarine from the same fleet, off the coast of northern Turkey in 2008. Nicknamed Hitler's Lost Fleet, the U-boats had been transported 2,000 miles overland from Germany during World War II to attack Soviet ships, then abandoned as the war neared its end. Over 2 years, the Lost Fleet sank dozens of Soviet vessels in 56 engagements, losing 3 of them to enemy action. Ancient Aboriginal Site. Scientists studying an ancient Aboriginal site in Warrnambool in southwestern Victoria disagree over whether charred rocks and weathered shells are 120,000-year-old evidence of Indian life. If the discoveries on the rocky headland called Moyjil prove to be as old as some scientists believe, they would forever change the global understanding of human migration. Researchers from several universities have been studying the site for years, and with the latest research on hold due to the coronavirus pandemic, it could be some time before a definitive conclusion can be made about whether Indigenous Australians inhabited the site more than twice as long ago as previously thought. In any case, famed Lake Mungo geologist Jim Bowler is convinced that the evidence found at Moyjil indicates that people cooked and ate at the site 120,000 years ago. Ancient Greek Tomb. This 3,500-year-old Greek tomb challenges everything we thought we knew about the roots of Western civilization. Archaeologists had been digging for days to break down the cream-colored rock-hard baked clay until what began as a collection of stones just visible in the earth became 4 walls in a neat rectangle. Over the next 6 months, archaeologists discovered not only bronze basins, weapons and armor, but countless more valuable items, including gold and silver cups, hundreds of beads of carnelian, amethyst, amber and gold, more than 50 stone seals carved with goddesses, lions and bulls, and 4 stunning gold rings. It was an ancient tomb, one of the most spectacular archaeological discoveries in Greece in more than half a century, and the researchers were the first to open it since the day it was covered up. Weapons Graveyard. Archaeologists excavating a centuries-old cemetery have found a number of rare tools and ancient Polish weapons, including an amazingly well-preserved sword. In 2019, archaeologists excavated a field near Bassius in the Świętokrzyskie Voivodeship in southern Poland and discovered a series of ancient warrior graves containing 4 iron swords and 9 spear or javelin points that were 2,000 years old. A press article in Poland at the time described these artifacts as heavily corroded and seemingly shapeless. The newly discovered swords, in their excellent state of preservation, are a valuable archaeological find that offers insight into the design and shaping of ancient Polish weapons during this period. They also discovered several women's graves with hand tools. Among these artifacts were brooches and tools used to make and repair clothing, including a richly decorated spindle with stripes. The find is unique due to its large number of artifacts. New spider discovered in Russia. What do you think people are more afraid of, guns or spiders? According to statistics, people are more afraid of creatures with many legs and many eyes. For those who are afraid of spiders, I have some bad news, so feel free to skip ahead now. Recently, scientists have discovered a completely new species of the so-called wolf spider, the mere sight of which can frighten the manliest of men. But rest assured, if you run into a wolf spider, you might not even notice it, as the largest species grow to a maximum of 3 centimeters. They usually live in grassy areas and damp forests, hiding in piles of fallen leaves and in places covered inside with a thick layer of spiderwebs. Wolf spiders usually feed on small bugs and also like to eat flies and insect larvae. They lead a solitary lifestyle and crawl out of their shelters only at night. They too are afraid of becoming victims of predators. Production of beer 6,000 years ago. Ancient amphorae show that 6,000 years ago, the Chinese experimented with 2 different methods of making beer in their search for the perfect alcoholic brew. The 9 Neolithic amphora shards found, used back then to transport beer, wine, and grain, were studied by researchers at Stanford University. They found remains of prehistoric beer, as well as evidence of 2 methods used by brewers of the time to brew beer. The methods were done separately and may also have been combined to produce different types of alcohol. One method used by the Yangshao people of Dinkan was to use malt made from sprouted millet, grass seed, and rice to make light alcoholic drinks. Another used Q, moldy grass, and grains to make stronger varieties. What is your opinion of these fascinating discoveries? What does this tell us about our ancestors? Sea monster expeditions. The discoveries of paleontological teams from the University of Oslo in 2006 and the University of Alaska in 2012 have hit like a bomb. The discovery of several skeletons belonging to a previously unknown species of dinosaur ensures that our understanding of the world at that time has changed massively. The newly discovered species had claimed the ocean as its habitat. So far, nothing new, but the bones found, especially the skull, including the jaw, show that the Pilosaurus was an incomparable predator. 12 meters tall, with a skull 2 meters long and equipped with 4 fin-like extremities, Pilosaurus must have possessed an impressive appearance. With its fins, it's said to have reached incredible speeds, so that it almost flew through the water. Its jaws were designed for a bite force equivalent to 4 times that of a Tyrannosaurus rex. We can consider ourselves lucky that the dinosaurs were already long extinct when humans conquered the world. COO Artifact. The COO Artifact is a very special mystery. In 1961, some geologists in California discovered a unique rock formation. At first glance, the rock appeared to be a geode. Enclosed within it, however, was an artifact that looked like an old-fashioned spark plug. Initial examination by one of the geologists present indicated that the geode should be around 500,000 years old. The artifact was carefully examined, revealing that it was indeed a spark plug. Its manufacture was dated to the 1920s. Quickly, the COO artifact became world famous. Time travelers had lost the spark plug in the past, or it was said to be proof of the existence of a distant advanced civilization with a technological development parallel to our world. The mythical city of Atlantis was also frequently mentioned in this context. Critics, however, pointed out that there are no precise explanations for the dating approach. It's not a geode, but a sedimentary deposit, which could often enclose modern objects with a massive layer of stone. In our eyes, however, time travel or an advanced civilization cannot be completely excluded. The Stones of Inca. In the 1960s, the extinct Inca culture had become the focus of much scientific interest. An archaeologist found several engraved stones, which showed representations of fish and other animals. Some of these depictions even showed animals that are now extinct. However, other very similar stones have attracted great attention. These showed dinosaur-like creatures and devices, which remind us of very advanced technology. Temporarily, they should date approximately between 600 and 1000 AD, a time when dinosaurs had been extinct for millions of years and technological development was virtually non-existent. Criticism of the authenticity of the stones was quickly raised, because those with questionable representations did not come from excavations but were acquired for a collection. Without concrete context of the find, it's also impossible to deduce a dating. This criticism was confirmed when the farmer who sold the stones admitted that he had made the engravings himself. The ancient patina was achieved by baking them in the oven. Imaginative, but unfortunately too obvious a fake. Bimini Road. In 1968, several divers discovered a strange structure near the Bahamas at a depth of just over 5 meters. Over a length of 800 meters, large cuboid stones are found in a straight alignment. A road, wall, dock, or similar man-made structure was suspected. However, the Bahamas were not settled until around 400 AD, and there are said to have been no people here before then. The underwater structure, however, is guaranteed to be older. It's obvious to see in the stone formation called Bimini Road a reference to the sunken city of Atlantis, but also a construction in the past by Chinese seafarers was assumed. Numerous scientific investigations led to different results. Usually, it's assumed today that natural geological causes led to the formation. Human involvement, however, cannot be ruled out with certainty. Karnak stones. Megalithic stone buildings from the Stone Age are not uncommon. Think, for example, of Stonehenge. However, near the French village of Karnak, there is an incredible density of large stone blocks, which were arranged in various formations. Besides single stones, there are whole rows of stone obelisks. Graves and whole stone burial mounds can also be found near Karnak. They all date back to the Stone Age and are likely more than 5,000 years old, but their exact placement may have been altered in the course of time. Cases are known in which such stones were used to build shelters for sheep. More interesting, however, are those myths which are based on Roman legends from almost 2,000 years ago and are still known today. They are said to be Roman soldiers who were turned to stone by Merlin. Cuban underwater formation. The search for Atlantis will never end, unless the Cuban underwater formation actually represents the sunken city as suspected. Because at a depth of 600 meters, numerous anomalies were discovered with sonar equipment, and these extend over an area of 2 kilometers squared. Numerous rectangular anomalies are interpreted as pyramids. Round structures are thought to represent other buildings. Experts have calculated that it must have taken at least 50,000 years for a city to sink to such depths. Therefore, they are skeptical whether these structures are actually of human origin. However, no expedition has yet been undertaken to explore this underwater formation. Until then, we can hope that Atlantis has indeed been discovered. A bizarre boulder. The origins of this bizarre boulder are unclear. It may well have been once part of a larger rock formation. What led to the demolition is unknown. In any case, the rock was discovered during the construction of a dam. On one side, countless lines in deep relief are visible in a grid pattern. These shapes have also given the stone the name Waffle Rock. But what the cause of this pattern is the subject of much debate. One possible interpretation is the Native Americans carved this pattern. Somewhat more exciting is the assumption that it's the petrified skin of gigantic reptiles. Of course, aliens are also brought into question. However the Waffle Rock was formed, it's still an enjoyable sight. Gornaya Shoria megaliths. In Siberia, Russia, lies the mountain Shoria. Here you can find numerous gigantic rectangular stone blocks, which are often called megaliths. The size of these stones is incomparable. The most massive are said to have an estimated weight of 3,000 to 4,000 tons. If the numerous assumptions are true, and these blocks were created by humans, then they would be the largest and heaviest artificially hewn stone blocks in the world. However, it's disputed whether these assumptions correspond to the truth. Only just recently, Russian scientists have pointed out that natural weathering processes could have led to the formation of these blocks. But since incredibly large megalithic stone blocks with a weight of several hundred tons are already known, the possibility of man-made megaliths cannot be completely invalidated. White Horse Hill. Gigantic figures, which were either carved into the rock or applied to the surface with chalk, are scattered all over the world. It's always been unclear how it was possible to create such figures without the view from above while flying. One of these figures is found in Great Britain near Oxford. It's a stylized running horse, and this exciting work of art is said to have been created over 3,000 years ago. What makes the horse so special, however, is that in this case we know how it was created. The horse can be seen excellently from the opposite hill. It's a somewhat unspectacular explanation, but we're glad to have found an answer to this one. A 5,000-year-old Cockno stone. The so-called Cockno stone has an exciting history behind it. Over 5,000 years ago, more than 90 different carvings were made in the rock. Most of them are very simple and show ring and spiral-shaped formations. The stone was discovered back in 1887 when a local priest and amateur archaeologist conducted excavations in the area of West Dunbartonshire, Scotland. Numerous scientific investigations followed. However, in the 1960s, it was decided to rebury the stone so that it would be safe from vandalism. In 2015, a team from the University of Glasgow decided to recover the stone again, and another excavation was carried out. Subsequently, the stone was again carefully examined and documented. In the meantime, it's on public display and serves the further education of mankind. Many exciting archaeological discoveries have very simple interpretations, others are hard to logically explain. It's no wonder that extraterrestrials or early advanced civilizations like Atlantis are often sought as reasons. Which of these stories did you like best? Do you believe in Atlantis? If so, where do you think we'll find the sunken city? Let us know in the comments below.